everyone, my name is Diana with the Billion Oyster Project. Thank you so much for joining me today as we do Billion Oyster Project's first ever story hour. Today we're going to be reading Down to the Sea with Mr. Magee with permission from Chronicle Books. Let's get started. Down to the Sea with Mr. Magee by Chris Van Dusen. Mr. Magee and his little dog Dee loved spending time in their boat on the sea. So early one morning at 6:32, they made a decision. That's just what they do. Right after breakfast, Magee packed a lunch. Sandwiches, carrots, a thermos of punch, a big box of raisins, some sweet pickled beets, chocolate chip cookies, and crunchy dog treats. With plans for the day and enough lunch for 3, they hopped in the car and drove down to the sea. The pair left the dock at 7 o'clock and motored their way around Eagle Egg Rock. They passed by the lighthouse and by the old wreck, with Magee at the wheel and Dee on the deck. They suddenly spied off the bow to the east, a big pod of whales, there were 50 at least, splashing about in the bright morning sun, feasting on shrimp and sardines by the ton. But one little whale who had eaten his fill, munching on minnows and plankton and krill, was bored with his breakfast, and since he was through, he swam off in search of something to do. Now Dee and Magee in their boat on the bay didn't notice the whale that was heading their way. They were watching the other whales put on a show, and soon that young whale was directly below. From under the sea the little whale spied Magee and Dee's boat, but not them inside. He longed for adventure, he wanted to play, so he bumped at the boat in a most friendly way. Then the whale placed his blowhole directly below, and ever so gently he started to blow. Magee saw the bubbles. He felt the boat sway. Then up went the boat on a fountain of spray. Higher and higher the little boat flew, as harder and harder that little whale blew. Then the whale blew a blast as hard as he could, much harder, in fact, than a little whale should. And that final blast blew the boat up in the sky, first 30, then 40, then 50 feet high. The boat kept on rising, but it didn't stop there. Wind hit it hard, and it flew through the air. Dee and Magee sailed over the sea when all of a sudden, they got stuck in a tree. So there they were, stranded, Magee and his pup, in the top of a spruce 60-something feet up. From their perch in the sky, the two watched in dismay as the whale far below swam swiftly away. Magee was downhearted. Just what could he do? They seemed hopelessly stuck, but little Dee knew. The secret to get the boat safely unpinned was to rock back and forth and wait for the wind. So they rocked and they rocked for an hour or so, but the boat didn't budge 'cause the wind didn't blow. Just when they thought they'd be stuck there all night, they spotted far off a spectacular sight. Away in the distance across the blue bay, the whales, all 50, were heading their way. They swam through the water in one long straight row and gathered around the small island below. Magee looked down at the circle of whales surrounding the island and raising their tails. He felt a bit nervous, a little bit tense, when all of a sudden it made perfect sense. "They're trying to save us," he shouted with glee. "Hold on, Dee, hold on, as tight as can be." Their tails slapped down with a thunderous crash. which in turn created a super high splash that covered the island and raced up the tree and dislodged the boat and set them both free. Dee was so happy she let out a yelp. Magee tipped his hat to the whales for their help. "Thank you, my friends, for saving the day." Then they all waved goodbye and the whales swam away. On the way home, little Dee had a thought. What about all of the food they had brought? In all the excitement, they ate not a bite. So they saved it and had it for dinner that night. The end. Thank you all so much for being such fantastic listeners. I truly love this book just because it shows the power of teamwork when it comes to solving a huge issue, just like the whales did in the book. Fun fact, did you know that no one had seen a single whale in the New York Harbor for over 100 years? That's a long time to go without seeing whales. But actually, I do have some good news. In 2010, New Yorkers saw 5 humpback whales in the New York Harbor, and it was all because our water quality had changed. And the water quality changed because ordinary people like yourself, like your friends, like your family, your teachers, your peers, they all decided to use the power of teamwork to come together and stand up for the environment and its wildlife. Isn't that crazy? Can you name any other species that use teamwork? I'll give you a hint. I am wearing a shirt about it. By now you've probably guessed, I'm talking about oysters. Yes, oysters. So just like people, just like the whales in the book, oysters can make a huge difference for the New York Harbor estuary system. And I'm not talking about, a single oyster or even a dozen oysters. I'm talking about oysters in the hundreds, the thousands, and maybe even the millions that could make a huge difference for our New York Harbor estuary system. Basically, when oysters team up and form reefs, they provide all sorts of awesome habitat for other animals, such as shrimps and crabs and other fish. Oysters become kind of the home for all of these other animals. They provide shelter, they provide places to eat and places to hide, places to raise their young. Oysters truly are the masters of teamwork, and they, just like us as humans, really know how to use that power of teamwork to make a positive change in our environment. Okay friends, I feel like I've been talking a lot. I actually want to hear from you. How do you think you can use the power of teamwork to improve the New York Harbor? Please comment on this video, comment below with any ideas that you have. It could be teamwork with your family, teamwork with your friends, teamwork with your local community, maybe your church or your mosque or your synagogue. I would love to hear all sorts of ideas about using the power of teamwork to improve our environment. Thank you so much once again for being such fantastic listeners. I had a lot of fun today reading Down to the Sea with Mr. Magee for Billion Oyster Project's first ever story hour. There's going to be a lot more to come in the coming weeks, so I hope you can join us and tune in for the next story hour. Don't forget to comment your ideas on how you can use the power of teamwork to improve the New York Harbor estuary system, okay? Awesome. I will see you guys at the next story hour. Bye!